I'm going to go on to what the hell is this with the Hindenburg. This is a strange one. When I watched it out of curiosity because it's one of those films I'd always heard of, and the thing I was always thinking about it was, how can you make a film about the Hindenburg? It's a Zeppelin that blew up. What can you do with that? That's not interesting. Potentially a film. And I saw the film eventually, like last week, and it was, yeah, they did that problem in the film too. Now this is a Robert Wise film. He made this. So it came out during the disaster era, where you had like Airport, you had Town Inferno, Poseidon Adventure, all these films about disasters, and it lasted a decade. The 70s you had the cool, interesting films, and then for the parents of these people watching those films, you had the disaster movies. You know, it tells you a lot about the culture that they were feeling disaster while the kids were doing films about drugs and, you know, dysfunction and alienation. It says a lot about the culture at the time. So this was one of them. And you'd have the older actors in these films and the younger actors in the other films. And you get some good ones. Tower Inferno's fun. Poseidon Adventure's fun. My favourite of that era is actually not disaster movies, Juggernaut, which is about a bomb in a boat. That's really good because Richard Lester directed that one and he didn't really care about disaster movies, so he did his own thing. This one was viewed as a disaster and a disaster movie because it was not reviewed well. It did okay commercially. It starred George C. Scott and a lot of other actors like Burgess Meredith, Anne Bancroft, and a lot of actors you'll notice. Like William Atherton's there in one of the early parts. But because he did this just for the same time as Day of the Locust, and you've got a lot of professional people doing this film, but it suffers from two things. One, it's about stopping a bomb when you know the bomb's going to go off. Slight problem. And two, your lead character is a German soldier during the build up to World War II. So even casting George C. Scott in this part, being on his side takes a lot. Even though the film is about him being a professional soldier and him not liking the Nazis and him from lots of suspicions, and he's on his way out essentially. He's been moved to a job he hates because I don't think people trust him. And he's considering going to Switzerland and just escaping from the Nazi rule. He's considering going to run because he doesn't think he's got a future in this era. And there's lots of other people, like people made the Zeppelin, who are also that same feeling like there's nothing here for me. Like, I don't agree with the Nazis, and they know it, and they're going to make my life hell. So you've got that element there, but it's done so politely that even though you've got George C. Scott, you've got Richard Dysart as the other guy with that problem, but William Atherton is a character who has issues with the Nazis. It's too polite. It really is too polite, and they cannot get to the crux of the matter of what's really going on. Now, a film that did it better that came from America was much later on, Valkyrie, which knew it was a World War II movie. It was about trying to kill Hitler and the plot failing. And it understood the plot fails. And understood that you know the plot fails. So it's about how does it feel and how do they react during the time? How does it build up? How does it go wrong? And there's a lot of suspense through that. And it works really well because they don't try and make every actor speak a German accent. They just have them as international accents you'd see in World War II movies. They knew it was a big blockbuster film. It was a suspense movie. You know the type of movie. This one tries to be a bit more literary and serious. But because it's a disaster, the Hindenburg disaster, they're following a conspiracy theory that someone wanted to blow up the Hindenburg to embarrass the Nazis because it's one of the big PR things, which in reality wasn't. It didn't help the German Nazi party, but it was It wasn't as big as the film makes out to make the plot work. And you kind of sense there's a lot of like, they're using Hindenburg to show a problem within the German society before the Nazis took power. But they can't, because it's a blockbuster film with lots of money involved, they can't really go for it. Nor can they make it too edgy. They can have a thing where they can have some music involved and some satire about the Nazis that the Nazis don't like. That's as far as they can really go, and they can have George C. Scott's a character who's has doubts and issues, and but the thing is, it just doesn't quite work. Not even George C. Scott, who's trying his best, can make this fully work. It just becomes a case of the fakeness of it, and it's obviously done on a soundstage. So the soundstage element of it just gets in the way. It's too polite. You just do feel like it's too polite, and that kind of stretches out. Even though there's some wonderful model work done, and it's done with so much care for the production design. For the inside of the Zeppelin is wonderful. You get to see how it works, the dangers of it. As someone who loves those old movies where they spent money and that kind of stuff and made the recreations and made it really work, that's wonderful to watch. There's a lot of really good craftsmanship in the 60s and 70s films beyond the actual merits as films. All that stuff is great. Watching the actors is terrific because they all try their best to make this work. But there's a problem in the centre of it they haven't figured out. They haven't figured out is like the film they want to make, they're trying to hide in between the film that is a disaster film, and they're going at this the whole time because you cannot really say what you want to say, and the conspiracy side it doesn't work. Like George C. Scott works out who the person behind it is early on because it's pretty obvious who it is going to be, and then this person talk to them about what's happening in Germany, and they get Scott convinced that they can blow this thing up and keep it safe so that no one gets harmed. And it's a bit of a stretch, but they don't actually do it properly either. It's like the other things that needed some really tough dialogue, and you don't get it. You just get a vague bit of dialogue, and you get two actors doing their best and doing a good job of what they've got, but they're not really delivering. You've got Anne Bancroft as this old friend of George C. Scott's who is an aristocrat, but the Nazis have their eye on her because they don't trust her anymore. Again, that could have been interesting. It kind of just feels like it's it's half done. It's politeness over something much more horrific from that time, like the stuff the Nazis were doing. And the whole thing again feels polite. It's like a German officer would know much more than George C. Scott's character suggests he does. And Scott's trying to add to suggest that he knows it, but he's trying not to face it. So that's a good actor trying to do well, but he's not really been given the material. And the politeness of the whole venture and the silliness of the gimmick of what the Hindenburg was a bomb rather than just natural causes over something that was a massive hot air balloon that might blow up anyway. It just feels like it's something that isn't really working, and the film's way too long. The film goes on for ages before you get to the bomb, so by the time you get to it, you've had to set up of going on, try to figure out who's the bomber when that's obvious, and try to use that as an excuse to have some social and character issues of Germany at the time, which they can never really get into too much. And you have a Nazi spy in the group as well, and it's just the cliches are all just there, and they're not really letting the work breathe. And what it really needed is a writer who could bring this stuff to life, and also needed to be open to suggestion it could be natural causes. They literally could have had, the guy caught and then it blows up anyway. Would have been much funnier and more twisted. And again, this is showing 90 minutes. This is a 90-minute film that's 2 hours long. It's shot in every budget. This film would have worked a lot better in the 40s or 50s with a low budget, with some dodgy special effects and some character actors having up a little bit, and it would have worked a lot better. This version, it's just too polite. And again, if you look at Titanic, which if you have any problem with Titanic, is at least understood the mechanics of what people knew about the incident and what people could expect, and they could understand how to manipulate it so you could have a drama. This one, it never quite gets there. It just always feels like it's there for the explosion, and the explosion's done really well. It's done shot in black and white explosion, and it's really horrific. But that's the only time the film comes into life. The rest of the time, it's like this sort of half thought out thing that you get nowadays in a lot of films. It's like, you never thought this film through, did you? Because it's only half thought through. You've spent a fortune on it, and now it's a disaster. And it's like, why did that happen? Because you never thought it through. And this is an example of them doing it in the 70s, where it's like, why did you make this film? Like, I'm glad it exists. I enjoyed it, but it's kind of a disaster at the same time. It's got this weird quality to it that doesn't really know what it should be. It doesn't really know what it needs to be. And it's like, what they did was they hired writers to try and put it together. They had a good cast, hired a director, and no one could get over the flawed idea at the centre of it. And it's a film that no good writer would actually look at and go, oh yeah, that can work. Most writers would look at it and go, that mechanism's not working well. So you have lots of things that are vaguely coming together, but it's only vaguely, and you don't get a sense of momentum in the narrative. You get a sense of them trying to push a narrative to keep it going. But there's a lot of huffing and puffing going on at every scene, and everyone's trying to make this thing work, and it's not working. And the luck of George C. Scott there, who's really trying in the most absurd circumstances. So yeah, it's one of those things that's like, what were they thinking? Why do you think this would work? What's going on? Help! So that's Hindenburg. See it at your peril. Right, that's me for this one. Bye.